Welcome to the show. Today we're breaking down a packed slate of combat sports news, starting with the fallout from UFC Oklahoma City, where du Plessis secured a massive unanimous decision victory over Usman in his first fight back after an 11-month layoff. While du Plessis is eyeing a shot at regaining his title, Usman is left questioning the judging scorecards, specifically the 50-45 score handed down by Sal D'Amato. We also look at the rising stock of Christian Leroy Duncan, who put the middleweight division on notice with a dominant win over veteran Jared Cannonier. On the injury front, we have a detailed update from Conor McGregor, who reveals his torn ACL and meniscus mirrors a setback he overcame in 2013, fueling his hopes for a return by next summer. Meanwhile, Austin Bashi shares the grim reality of the octagon, revealing he suffered multiple facial fractures, including his orbital bone and nose, during his recent loss to Jose Delgado. In the world of crossover wrestling, a long-running feud turned physical as Colby Covington and Muhammad had to be separated following a heated clash at the RAF 11 post-fight press conference. The two are now set to settle their differences in the cage next month. On a much more somber note, the boxing world is mourning the tragic death of WBC title challenger Hannah Rapp, who was killed in a motorist accident in Texas while riding her bicycle. Finally, we'll discuss the social media stir caused by Paramount Plus Gills after the UFC broadcast partner compared the lackluster 2026 World Cup final to the infamous low-volume rematch between Rose Namajunas and Carla Esparza. We have a lot to get into, so let's dive in.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a completely fascinating psychological landscape to explore today. Because every single fighter we are talking about is dealing with a totally different kind of reality check.
Exactly.
Whether that is, from the judges, from their own bodies failing them, or just from the sheer tragedy of real life outside the sport.
Okay, well, let's unpack this. We have to start with the main event at UFC Oklahoma City, right? Because it perfectly illustrates this clash of realities. You have du Plessis coming back after losing his middleweight belt to Khamzat Chimaev.
Yeah, and that's not an easy thing to bounce back from.
Not at all. He has been sitting on the sidelines for 11 long months. To put that in perspective for you, the listener, imagine returning to a high-stakes, high-pressure office job after a whole year away.
Oh, the rest would be real.
Right. You're walking in, the lights are blinding, everyone is watching you, and you're secretly wondering, do I still have my edge? Have my reflexes slowed down?
Well, the atrophy of timing is a very real fear for fighters. That fast-twitch muscle memory, the ability to read distance by the millimeter, it fades when you aren't under live fire.
Spot on. But for Dricus, he said the moment the fight started, it all just instantly clicked back into place for him.
That's incredible.
Yeah, he had this profound realization that competing under the lights is quite literally what he was built to do. But here's where we get to the other side of the cage.
Right, because what's fascinating here is the absolute contrast. While Dricus is experiencing this sort of spiritual, physical validation in the first two rounds, Usman is living a completely different nightmare.
Oh, absolutely.
And the biggest talking point coming out of this fight isn't just that Dricus won a unanimous decision, it's the controversy surrounding Judge Sal D'Amato.
Oh, man, don't get me started.
Right. He handed down a 50-45 scorecard in favor of du Plessis.
I have to push back on that scorecard immediately. You've probably watched a fight where you swore one guy definitively won the last two rounds, right?
Yeah, definitely. It happens all the time.
Well, if you watch this fight, Usman clearly found his range in the third round. He was reading the timing, he was slipping shots, and then he found this massive second wind in the fifth round.
He really did turn it up late.
So the other two judges, David Sutherland and Mike Bell, both scored at 49-46. How does a professional judge hand down a 50-45? Doesn't that completely invalidate a fighter's late-stage adjustments?
It absolutely diminishes the real-time problem solving that happens in the octagon. And, it exposes the inherent flaw in the 10-point must system.
Which is a huge issue.
It is. The current judging criteria essentially force judges to view a 25-minute fight as 5 isolated 5-minute vacuum chambers. It completely ignores the overarching narrative of a fight.
Right.
If Usman spends rounds 1 and 2 downloading data and then uses that data to systematically dismantle his opponent in rounds 3 and 5, a 50-45 scorecard basically tells the fighter, your adaptations didn't matter. The narrative was already decided.
Exactly. And you also have to factor in the physical adversity Usman was dealing with to even make those late-round adjustments.
Yeah.
Talk about the eye poke in round 2.
Or, to be technically accurate to the referee's assessment, a legal punch.
Okay, fair.
Du Plessis threw a closed fist, and as it landed, his thumb happened to graze Usman's left eye. The referee paused the action, but because it was deemed a legal blow, Usman just had to deal with the consequences.
Which is rough.
Yeah. He admitted afterward that the compromised vision made it incredibly difficult for him to gauge distance.
Which is everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's explain why that is so devastating, especially for a wrestler like Usman.
Yeah, depth perception is crucial.
Right, because human depth perception relies on binocular vision. Your brain basically uses the slightly different angles from both eyes to calculate exactly how far away an object is.
Makes sense.
So if your left eye is suddenly jammed, you lose that stereoscopic depth. Your radar is just completely offline.
And for a wrestler, that's a nightmare.
Exactly. If Usman wants to shoot for a takedown, he doesn't know the exact micro distance required to drop levels. Like if he shoots from an inch too far away, he gets caught in a guillotine choke, right? If he shoots an inch too close, he eats a knee to the chin.
Precisely. He essentially had to recalibrate his entire spatial awareness mid-fight. And he's doing this against a world-class striker, which makes his late-round surge even more impressive.
Totally agree.
But this loss carries heavy implications. This is Usman's second consecutive loss at 185 pounds, following his victory over Joaquin Buckley down at 170.
Right.
Because of this, Usman is now openly considering dropping back down to the welterweight division. It shows you how the specific mechanical damage sustained in a single fight can force a former champion to rethink their entire physical blueprint.
Speaking of physical blueprints, let's transition from the veterans trying to preserve their bodies to the rising stars on the undercard who are really putting theirs on the line.
The young guys.
Yeah, because the physical realities of the octagon are just so stark when you look at the contrast between Christian Leroy Duncan and Austin Boshi.
It's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows.
Exactly. Look at Christian Leroy Duncan in the co-main event. He extends his winning streak to 5, adding to wins over Puliev, Anders, Tulio, and Dolids by completely dismantling the 42-year-old veteran, Jared the Gorilla Cannonier.
Such an impressive performance.
It was. Duncan pushes his UFC record to 8-2, and he does it using these lethal, complex spinning attacks. He dropped and rocked Cannonier multiple times to take the unanimous decision.
And if we look at the mechanics of why those spinning attacks were so effective, it really comes down to the cruel reality of aging in combat sports.
Yeah, Cannonier's 42 now.
Exactly. A spinning back kick or a spinning back fist takes a fraction of a second longer to execute than a straight punch. They require a massive commitment of weight.
Right, and they briefly expose your back to the opponent.
Yes. So to land them, you have to exploit a delay in your opponent's visual processing. Because Cannonier's 42, his reaction time, his ability to recognize the setup of a spinning attack and fire a counter down the middle is just a microsecond slower than it used to be.
Just a microsecond makes all the difference.
It does. Duncan recognized that lag, capitalized on it, and now he is targeting a single-digit ranking in the middleweight division.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We contrast Duncan's flawless execution with the grueling, agonizing reality faced by 24-year-old Austin Boshi.
That was tough to watch.
Right. Boshi lost a unanimous decision to Jose Delgado, dropping his UFC record to 1-2. But the story isn't the loss, it's how he survived it.
Yeah.
Boshi took a massive right hand from Delgado in the very first round. And over the next 2 rounds, you were just watching his right eye gradually swell completely shut.
And the medicals later confirmed why that happened. He posted from the hospital that he suffered minor fractures to both his nose and his orbital bone.
I mean, he fought 10 minutes with a broken face.
It's insane.
Think about the mechanics of fighting half-blind. We just talked about Usman losing depth perception earlier.
Right, from the eye poke.
Exactly. Well, Boshi lost half of his entire field of vision. To even see Delgado moving to his right side, Boshi would have to physically turn his entire head.
Which completely exposes his chin to a knockout blow.
Yes, he's walking into punches he literally cannot see coming. And yet, after surviving all 3 rounds, his Instagram caption was entirely positive.
That's the wild part.
He wrote, "All glory to God." He thanked his fans, said he'll live to fight another day, and claimed he loves the game.
It requires a fundamental suspension of self-preservation. When your orbital bone is fractured, your body's alarm systems are blaring, telling you to curl up and protect the injury.
Of course.
To override that evolutionary instinct, to step forward into the fire when you are in agonizing pain and visually impaired, requires a level of mental fortitude that borders on delusion. It reminds you why fighters are cut from a different cloth.
Before we dive deeper, shout out to our sponsors. First up, Elite Sports, leaders in premium fightwear for BJJ and MMA. Whether you're rolling or striking, they've got gear built to move with you. Check them out at elitesports.com. And if you've got a story, news tip, or questions, send it to us at butocast.com.
So, diving back in, Bashi's brutal facial injuries really provide a seamless pivot to our next topic. It reminds us that catastrophic damage can happen in an instant.
Exactly. While Bashi is dealing with a broken face, we have Conor McGregor dealing with a completely shattered knee.
Yeah.
The fallout from UFC 329 against Max Holloway is just insane.
Yeah, it really is.
Right. McGregor's been away for 5 years. The whole world is watching this massive welterweight return in Vegas. And just, 69 seconds into the very first round, McGregor throws a kick, and his leg just gives out.
It's brutal to watch.
The referee calls a stoppage loss. McGregor tore both the ACL and the meniscus in his right knee, just instantly.
Right, and if we break down the biomechanics of that injury, throwing a powerful kick involves generating massive rotational force, like so much torque through your hips.
Yeah.
And if your planted foot doesn't pivot smoothly with that rotation, all of that immense torque travels directly into the knee joint. The ligaments simply aren't designed to withstand that kind of twisting shear force, and they just snap.
It's devastating. But here's the eerie part. McGregor took to social media to confirm the diagnosis, and he pointed out that he suffered the exact same injury in ACL and meniscus tear in his first fight against Max Holloway back in 2013.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the historical symmetry is almost cinematic.
Seriously.
The only difference is that in 2013, the injury was to his left leg, and he actually managed to fight through it and win a unanimous decision. Because he has navigated this exact rehab before, he is incredibly optimistic.
Yeah, he noted that he returned in just 9 months back in 2013 to fight Diego Brandao. Now, with modern regenerative medicine, stem cells, advanced physical therapy, he fully expects to be back in the cage by next summer.
And he's backing it up, too.
He really is. He's posting videos of himself walking without crutches, hitting the leg extension machines, activating his quad under resistance.
But honestly, the physical rehabilitation is almost secondary to how he is processing this psychologically.
How so?
Well, McGregor offered a shockingly philosophical take on the injury. He actually said he wonders if he was saved from something worse.
Wow.
Yeah. He implied that if he had won that fight in spectacular fashion, he would have hit the after parties as the man. And he suggested that ego trip could have led him down a very dark, self-destructive path. He actually expressed gratitude for the injury.
Okay, I have to challenge this narrative right here. I'm looking at this and thinking, is this genuine maturity? Has Conor McGregor finally reached a point of self-awareness where he recognizes his own self-destructive tendencies?
It's a fair question.
Or is it just the ultimate psychological coping mechanism? Think about it. You are a global superstar with a massive ego.
Yeah.
You lose in 69 seconds in front of millions of people. Your body completely betrays you. Is the only way to process that humiliation to convince yourself that it was actually divine intervention saving you from yourself?
It is a brilliant psychological immune response. When a towering ego faces a catastrophic, undeniable failure, the brain floods the system with cognitive reframing to prevent a total mental collapse.
That makes total sense.
If he admits his body is failing and his time is over, the ego shatters. But if he frames a career-altering knee injury as a blessing in disguise, he retains control of the narrative. He claims he has maintained maximum discipline since the bout. So whether it is true enlightenment or just a desperate defense mechanism, it is keeping him focused on the rehab.
It really is a masterclass in protecting your own mindset. Now, while McGregor is fighting his own body and mind to get back to the cage, 2 other former UFC stars are perfectly healthy and using all their energy to fight each other.
Oh, this was wild.
Right. It proves that this combat sports animosity definitely doesn't stay confined to the octagon.
You're referring to the absolute chaos that erupted at the RAF 11 crossover wrestling event in Milwaukee.
It was pure chaos. So to give you some context on the results, you had Bilal Muhammad, who is currently riding a 3-fight MMA losing streak, stepping into a crossover wrestling match.
And he ended up defeating Ben Askren on points.
Exactly. Then later on the same card, Colby Covington, who recently left the UFC, defeated Arman Tsarukyan to win the inaugural RAF crossover championship.
So both men win their matches, and they both end up at the post-fight press conference at the same time.
Which is just a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely, because combat sports operate on an economy of attention, and both of these men know exactly how to manipulate that economy. Bilal grabs the microphone and starts screaming that Colby went against a lightweight in Tsarukyan.
Yeah, calling him out.
He demands that Colby fight someone his own size, explicitly pointing out that the next event in Cleveland is right around the corner.
And Colby Covington never misses an opportunity to escalate. He fires right back, telling Bilal, "You barely beat the dead guy," referring to the retired Askren. He calls Bilal a bum, who only scores on dead guys and gargoyles.
The insult lands and the room just shatters. Colby threatens to slap Muhammad.
And Bilal doesn't just sit there and take it. He leaps out of his seat, charges the distance, and actually throws a kick at Covington.
I couldn't believe it.
Security and officials flood the stage. Bodies are flying everywhere trying to separate them. Colby's trying to push forward. It completely blurs the line between a promotional stunt and a genuine act of violence.
Which is exactly the point. When we talk about the mechanics of fight promotion, the goal is to make the audience question if the hatred is real.
Right.
If it looks scripted, people tune out. If a legitimate kick is thrown at a press conference, the clips go viral, and suddenly everyone is invested. Because shortly after they were separated, RAF officials announced that Colby and Bilal will officially co-main event RAF 12 in Cleveland next month.
Colby is already calling it easy money. But you have to ask yourself, watching that footage when someone throws a high kick in a suit at a press table, is that authentic bad blood boiling over? Or is it just masterful, weaponized animosity to guarantee a massive payday?
It's likely a symbiotic mix of both. They may genuinely dislike each other, but they are also highly aware that their disdain is monetizable. But it is a stark contrast to our next topic, because while Covington and Muhammad are manufacturing drama for pay-per-view buys, the boxing world was hit with a sobering, undeniable tragedy.
It's a very heavy pivot, but it's a necessary perspective. It pulls you right out of the manufactured drama and reminds you of the profound fragility of life outside the ring.
Yeah, the boxing community is mourning the loss of 26-year-old American boxer Hannah Rapp.
The contrast between the theater we just discussed and the reality of this loss is just heartbreaking.
It really is.
To give you a sense of who she wasn't just a fighter. She was a native of Yorktown, Indiana, and a former collegiate track athlete at Purdue.
Such an impressive background.
And while she was building her pro boxing career, she just turned pro in 2024, she maintained a full-time job as a fire and life safety inspector at Texas A&M.
Wow.
She literally dedicated her days to protecting people from harm and her nights to the discipline of boxing.
And the details of her passing are just deeply tragic. On July 18th, she was out riding her bicycle on a highway in Texas.
Yeah.
According to the reports, a 31-year-old driver named Charles Medina passed her in his vehicle, suddenly stopped, reversed, and struck her.
It's just so senseless. She was rushed to a local hospital that was pronounced dead.
Awful.
Medina has since been arrested and charged with manslaughter. Under Texas law, that implies recklessly causing another person's death.
When you look at the trajectory she was on, the loss is staggering. She had compiled a stellar professional record of 8-1-1 across 9 bouts prior to June.
That record is what earned her a shot at the WBC women's featherweight title just a month before she died. She challenged T.R. Brown for the belt.
Right.
And even though Rapp lost that fight, T.R. Brown came out after the news of her death and lovingly called Hannah the best dance partner I have ever faced as a pro.
Mauricio Suleiman, the president of the WBC, released a statement mourning her not just as an exceptional boxer, but as an invaluable member of the boxing family.
So sad.
It demands that we step back from the scorecards, the rankings, and the press conference brawls and recognize the humanity of these athletes. They are people with vibrant, multifaceted lives that can be extinguished in a single, careless moment on a highway.
It truly is a heavy reality. Our thoughts are absolutely with her family and her community. So what does this all mean? When we spend time covering the immense physical tolls, the intense psychological coping mechanisms, and the real-world tragedies of combat sports, sometimes you need a moment of sheer absurdity to decompress.
We definitely need to lighten the mood after that, and the internet provided a perfect palate cleanser.
Right. So combat sports history somehow got dragged into the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
It's so random.
It is. For context, the World Cup final was between Spain and Argentina. And to put it mildly, it was not a thriller.
No, it was a slow, incredibly cautious, scoreless regulation.
Spain just possessed the ball endlessly while Argentina sat back in the defensive shell, refusing to engage. Spain eventually won Elise in extra time.
And this raises an important question about how modern broadcasters engage with their audiences online.
Because the official UFC on Paramount Plus X account decided to offer their critique of this global soccer match.
Yes. They posted a promotional image of the infamous UFC 274 strawweight title rematch between Rose Namajunas and Carla Esparza.
Oh, man.
With the caption, This World Cup final so far.
It is so incredibly brutal. Let me explain why that fight is the ultimate insult for anyone listening who doesn't remember.
Please do.
UFC 274 is widely considered the most uneventful, frustrating title fight in the history of mixed martial arts. Both Namajunas and Esparza were so terrified of the other woman's counterstrikes that they both completely refused to lead the dance.
Just absolute tactical paralysis.
Exactly. It resulted in 25 agonizing minutes of circling each other, feinting at the air with historically low striking volume. Esparza won a split decision, and the fans in the arena were booing so loudly you could barely hear the commentary.
So to compare the biggest sporting event in the world, a World Cup final, to Namajunas Esparza 2, is a highly specific surgical strike of an insult.
It really is. They aren't just calling the soccer match boring.
Right. They're weaponizing the very concept of fear of engagement from MMA history to mock the tactical paralysis of two global soccer powerhouses.
It's amazing. But honestly, looking back at everything we've covered today, it really brings us full circle to the psychology required to step into the arena in the first place.
It does. When you look at Austin Bashi stepping forward with a broken face and a swollen eye, or Dricus du Plessis welcoming the suffocating pressure of a title fight after a year away.
Or Conor McGregor desperately reframing a shattered knee as a divine blessing.
Exactly. It forces you to ask a fundamental question. Do fighters need to possess a profound level of psychological delusion just to survive the reality of this sport? Or is that exact delusion the very thing that makes them superhuman?
That's it for this episode of Budocast. Thanks for joining us as we break down the latest in martial arts. We'll be back soon with more news, stories, and insights. Until then, train hard, stay humble.